Hello everyone, I'm Adam Papagan. Welcome to another episode of There's a Place, the ASMR talk show. The show that feels good to hear. During the media blitz I did for the OJ Museum, got a lot of added some unusual credits to my belt. Appeared on the local news, which apparently you can't get an IMDb listing for. It was 48 Hours, which is a show you normally get on because you kill your spouse. And I was doing some radio too. I did a bunch of local radio, international radio, and also on Sirius Satellite Radio, the Jay Thomas Show. Jay Thomas, comedian, radio personality, just a guy who, never became like super, big A-lister star or anything, but worked steadily for many decades. He would appear on David Letterman kind of frequently. He was on Cheers, Murphy Brown. He was that guy, type of guy. But he's doing this radio show on Sirius XM. So they have me call in and talk about the OJ Museum, joke around a little bit, just a normal kind of radio show kind of deal. But now flash forward to a few weeks later, and reading the news, it turns out Mr. Thomas passed away. So, it's always weird when you're like, oh, that guy died, I just talked to him, wow. But it's weird to have like this brief interaction with somebody, and it's over the radio, and he had obviously interacted with a lot of people on his show and stuff, and his career's going one way, mine's going the other way. We intersected, talked on the radio for just a couple minutes, and then this guy dies. So it was a little strange, It turns out I would have been on probably one of his last broadcasts or whatever. But I was thinking about, like, he had a phone screener guy, he had like a producer who contacted me. Even though he was dying of cancer, he kept working, just doing the satellite radio show, just to have something to do. So, those people could have jobs and stuff. And for that reason, I'm proud to have been on one of the last episodes of the Jay Thomas radio show. Our guest tonight is, met him before, he was on the Del Talk show, kind of playing himself, but he's an actor, an author, a poet, multifaceted individual that is definitely, after talking to him for a little bit, you're like, okay, there's the heart of an artist beating underneath this exterior. Please welcome my guest tonight, Tom Faraday. Come on out, Tom.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good.
Long time.
Yeah, it has been. We were on the Del Talk show and stuff, and I've had some run-ins, through the years. Big fan of your Instagram account.
Oh, thank you.
You seem like you zip all over the place.
That's correct.
Where do you zip to? Where you been zipping lately?
California, all over, only.
All over California?
All over California. San Diego, Southern California, mainly. I like Southern California. Malibu, Laguna Beach. Malibu has really nice spots.
Yeah, you seem kind of like, despite your, kind of dark and mysterious look.
Dark and mysterious.
You seem like you are like also a beach guy.
Oh yeah. I like hanging out places, stop to get a villa or certain places in Malibu.
When you say certain places, it sounds like you're trying to keep them a secret.
Oh, not really. Not really. Well, like, as a Malibu seafood, the Coral Beach, it's really pretty. It's kind of in between Dukes, Nobu, Mastro is the same down at Pelican Resort area. So they were pretty nice places.
You hit a lot of good restaurants.
That's correct.
You like to eat at nice restaurants?
Yes, definitely. I'm a connoisseur, so I always try a new place. I like my regular places, like my routines, but in the same time.
But you're eating at like Mastro's and the fanciest restaurants.
Not always, but I'm trying. Yeah.
You go to, but more than
every
most,
day.
maybe.
Yes, every day I'm in a restaurant. That's for sure. I think as many degrees or certificates you have, as many times you go to a restaurant per day. So that's a variety of restaurants. So I try to maintain that.
Do you cook at all?
No, I don't. I really don't.
So you only eat food at restaurants?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I figure that the restaurant is going to taste better
Yeah.
than if I make it myself.
It's faster.
It's faster. You don't have to clean up.
I buy some things. And my nutritionist said to take calcium in a food, in a milk product, to take in calcium. So 3 times a day. So I have to buy something in grocery stores, but I'll try to maintain my restaurant.
So what are some of your favorite places?
Well, in the morning I always start with Starbucks, just because that's the only coffee I can wake up from, and that's every day. And
That's the only coffee you can wake up?
That's the only coffee I like that's strong enough for me. Sometimes coffee bean or peach coffee or other type of coffees, or Seattle Bass coffees, Seattle's, and I get I get to stop everywhere, so I always try something else. Okay, I go to either Fornio in Pasadena or Beverly Hills. Okay, there's Palms in Beverly Hills, but you can't go to Ivy's at Robertson and Malibu. You can't go to Duke's. You can't go to Nobu's. You can't go to Mastro's.
So really, just
I like
any...
Mastro's. I like Mastro's because it's like a really good old bird cooking type of a food.
Yeah.
Which they have fish and steaks, and I also tried like Italians. Long Beach has a lot of restaurants.
So
bands,
they have an Italian. So anywhere that there are like restaurants,
yes,
you always find it in sit-down restaurants.
Beach and sit-down restaurants.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's your vibe. Like it. So Tom, you have an accent.
Yes.
A little bit. Where are you from?
I grew up in Hungary.
Hungary.
Yes,
okay.
I grew up in Hungary, and I studied in Hungary. I graduated in Hungary first on my education at the University of Miskolc, and then I had 3 foreign semesters in Vienna, in Magdeburg and Dortmund, in Germany, in Austria. I traveled those European countries from my childhood. Also had a certain art-related studies in England. So I spent three longer period of time in England, southern England, Scotland.
Well then, what's this? Basically all of Europe. What brought you to America then?
Oh, that's a really good question. In 1996, I volunteered for a specialized translation project. It was a church, so it was a religious technical project. So since I had a mechanical engineering and German-Hungarian translator degree, which was a master's in mechanical engineering and German-Hungarian translation, MSME, MA, I did a lot of translations in all kind of topics, and I could be the Hungarian editor on this team, and it was in Hollywood Boulevard. And and I had friends this way, and it was nice. And I fell in love with the palm trees, of course. Everybody wants to be in a beach, And I maintained a consulting career before, business software, and I figured maybe I can raise my earning So I went back to Hungary and I worked as a consultant. It really was relating to Deloitte and Touche. As a consulting, KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, like a top 6 firms, 5 that became 3. And in '98, I got a project in San Diego, Del Mar, La Jolla area. So it was a $14 billion purchase company. And it's a pretty nice project for me. I had a competition in Zurich that I became, they said I was in the top 6, top 3. And I went over to, meanwhile I took my art classes in England, and that was a Venezuela, Caracas project. I took screenwriting also in '94 and after graduation, and French again the 5th time. 5 times I started French. And this project was already part of the Computer 2000 problem, and I was also kind of responsible, like laying off people. So I sketched out something. I had a lot of time, and I think that movie became later on the Up in the Air. I looked like, I think, Anna Kendrick when I started my career, and when I finished, I was like George Clooney. And I think Anna Kendrick played me really, really well. But bottom line is that that career was kind of over. They laid off too many people. Until 2001, you could not work the specific systems, and I went to Beverly Hills, so I worked on Rodeo Drive, and I was writing, acting from that point. So I kind of quit consulting.
Because you kind of always had that urge to be an actor.
That's correct. I gave it a try because life gave me a chance, and I still had friends through my church in LA. I really loved the La Jolla Shore scenario, so I wrote another feature relating LA to San Diego and from France to Paris that I haven't done yet. And then I was able to work with few people. I met Tom Waters, who was a once known New York playwright in the 60s, a hot playwright. He was compared to young Eugene O'Neill, and we met in England, and he wanted me to teach writing in Hungary, his seminar, but I was here, so we ran into each other. And his new wife and family, his wife's, who used to be a Broadway actress, mother was Dr. Marjorie Taylor, who passed away in the fall. She had 3 doctorates, voice addiction and education. She used to be teaching UCLA and USC, so she's a top teacher. Beverly Hills voice mastery was her. So I could spend 6 years supporting her as far as a personal assistant and TA. And Tom, they had a theater going on, but they both passed away. And so the plays I was performing, Tom and his Dr. Taylor's daughter put on, it didn't go further to New York. So that was my extended family, kind of. It was arranged to one of their daughters, then another granddaughter, and the story looked like came out from like a King's Speech story, The Minority Report. She's a lady with the patios, flowers, and then it went like it would be looking like a Twilight Saga and the beautiful creatures, Lincoln Vampire movies, and then ending with the Grand Budapest. So it was like a story. And then it was a good time, Beverly Hills, and major motion picture business and teaching and studying a lot and performing, and I give it a try.
Well, you gotta try.
Yes.
The only guarantee you have that you're not gonna make it is if you quit.
Yeah.
If you take yourself out of the game. I remember the last time, not the last time, but one of the last times we spoke on the Del Talk show, we were talking about vampires, vampire hunting. Do you remember this?
Oh, Del Talk show. Oh, we were talking something about, it was something funny. Which was in 2012, that show, no?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
2012, yeah. Yeah, we talked about something. I read something from my Red Poetry book.
Yeah.
And I mentioned something between Christian Stewart and Jenna Elfman, cross or mix, and something about vampires, but I'm not really. Yeah, there was
but you're not really into vampires anymore?
My new book that I'm writing, which is very old, and it's an old title. They always ask me what's the title, and I always say it's a Renaissance book. It's It's called A Renaissance Man, which is a very, very old title. And since they made, I think, a movie with that title.
Yeah,
and,
it's a known phrase.
But see, I'm up to like 850 pages, and that was about shading into vampire. And we talked that book title is gonna be the Bells of Magdeburg, which the subtitle is kissing with vampire delicacy.
Kissing with a vampire delicacy.
Yeah, that was in that show, but I forgot that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was late too. Or like from the book cover, I took off certain symbols because it was too confusing.
Yeah.
So in a new book, I have like more explanation. I think many people who live in LA, they not just the free falling Tom Petty or other kind of things. They in the San Fernando Valley, they call each other they call it a vampire town, and almost everybody has that feel. And that's maybe because people started to work at night a lot, or the 24/7 was more LA than other cities. By now, I won't say half of the country works at night, but our life is like a 24/7 as we are connected or related to the cell phones or electrical digits. Yes, so everybody's always on a cell phone. So it's like
sucking the juice.
Yes. So, but that was the San Fernando Valley where I think everybody, or like Pasadena, the Victorian.
A lot of vampires in Pasadena.
Yes, like Pasadena is kind of like the a city that I experienced to be like a Victorian or a Jane Austen dramatization. So everybody's sitting in that. It's not like every American young daughter wants to be a Queen of England, but they are sitting in the rebirth, the feminism, the Jane Austen area, which is really, really nice. But at night, it's a beautiful area. You like seeing people in these really dark streets, in these Victorian houses, and like they would come out vampire hunting. So like, they look around, and I mentioned this book, The Bells of Magdeburg.
Well, let's talk about the book.
So I mentioned it that like there are people going out on the street, and then, well, like one of my book, it talks about a writer who actually, of course, me originally.
Yeah.
And the writer, that his next book would be The Pasadena Vampires.
The Pasadena
Vampires, yes. And I've heard later on there's a band, the Hollywood Vampires, which is like a Johnny Depp, but I've never heard about it before because I was not familiar. So I was not familiar with it, but it was quite, stimulating people. I wrote about in this book, I think, that the writer's cosmic universe, that people sit down to write, and then they are affected by the same words and the same time, because newspapers and era kind of determines what are the words that we often use, and then everybody's writing usually about the same thing, but from their own viewpoint on universe. So that can be an Italian lady or a Korean girl or me writing about something very similar but in different settings from our viewpoint, but using similar words, and vampires, for instance. So the San Fernando Valley also have the same feel at nighttime, like people like, are there vampires out? Which is
so it's more of a metaphorical
yes,
vampire.
Correct.
Well, let's talk about the Bells of Magdeburg. So this is one of your books.
Yes.
And you have the different translations, which we'll talk about. But I'm noticing the cover here. There's the title, but then there's just like little like phrases and stuff. JFK.
Yeah, it's basically it talks about his.
Okay, I just want us to talk a little quieter.
Okay, so I had recollections on my last lifetime, and I was relating the topic, so I included that in the book.
So wait a minute. So
because of this character, and then a few other U.S. presidents. So I had a theory, and I included that theory how this system was built. Like, what if U.S. presidents reincarnate, like a Dalai Lama, maybe, and what was that system, maybe, and.
So were you JFK in a past lifetime?
I had a recollection about that.
Well, can you tell us about it?
But certain churches and organizations doesn't really like it, but I had a feeling that I met But it was very funny because Hungary, growing up, I was not. A lot of people had the feeling that I was him, just walking around me, and I was in politics and youth organizations, which they called Communist to Democratico, which was U.S. Ambassadors or journalists supported methods we were using, and it was about changing the system and bringing down the Iron Curtain and city program. I was a part of the youth council, or I was the only person in the city council. So you kind of recognize who I might have been. And the funny part is that my education was still in Hungarian and German. My parents sent me secretly to learn German. So we didn't have English teacher, only one elementary school. And I was reciting things that sounded like JFK, for instance, in Hungarian. But I was never reading anything in English. I never heard anything in English like that. But that's just, I didn't know that until a later time.
You're speaking in like a Boston accent? You're speaking like a Bostonian accent?
No, I was in Hungarian. I was saying things that was in American history books.
Got it.
In my political life, for instance. And then I had recollections that I met Bill Clinton when he was a very young kid. They were standing in a row and I shook hands with him and I said, "You're going to be president one day, my son." That was what I told him. And I had other recollections. On the assassination, I had this that it was a Canadian sniper.
A Canadian?
Canadian, I don't know why, but that was that I was hit somewhere here, and that sniper was not, I don't know, so that was the thing. That it was not the Italians, but the Canadians, and that speech is like, okay, we lost 3 presidents, and as a church, Church of Scientology statistic says that people reincarnate and they wait 7 years, and so that's basically correct in my case. I was born in 70, but as far as a spiritual being, I was around, and I picked up when they were killing Bobby in LA, and later on I had to drive into the building. It was a closed down building, and last lifetime pictures are stocked in the universe. So these pictures are facsimiles, they are attacking you. So they're kind of hitting yours. So I've seen these pictures, what happened there, exactly what was going on, which is again, totally different. Not totally different, but there's some missing data always, what they were broadcasting or what they were publishing. That's all. I was reading a US history book, and sometimes I have recollection when I'm reading US history book, and it says, I had a lot of recollection, I was reading Bill Clinton or something, and then I was reading something about Texas annexation, and I was totally sure that he was he was Frederick Douglass, one of the U.S. senators, so he's not a president before. So I located a few people who might have been, and I just put this in the book because of U.S. president's speeches. Tom Waters, my friend, was a speechwriter, also for New York mayor, and see, I was not sure that the speeches that Martin Luther King or Robert Kennedy had, they were written for them. So I think U.S. went to a totally different path, because sometimes speeches were read 10 years later or 5 years later by a candidate. Okay, they made it their own. So that's why my advice would be to read speeches for the last 100 years, and then you it's a guidance that I'm sure that a lot of political writers, a lot of scientists, PhDs, incorporating a lot of data, so you have a viewpoint that helps you overcome psychological problems. So psychological relaxing these speeches, because they're preparing you for things. So I think that there are certain speeches that were not necessarily by the president issued or written, but assigned, or President Nixon had to read a speech regarding Vietnam, and maybe that speech was before or meant to be a little bit after, but he had to read it, so he included some stuff that was his stuff. But these are things that was prepared before, and that, okay, I'm gonna read it because I want to be loyal to my country, so I'm gonna read it to you today. And I think every president's like that. So I don't think so there was ever any president who's a racist. So they call all kind of, it's like a spiritual thing. Like usually they don't elect anybody who is, because otherwise they would not become president. But it's kind of a knowledge. Like I figured that there was maybe a system called a library. Mm-hmm. And
an e-library?
No, it's like kind of a chip. Chip.
Okay.
That I won't say it comes from another planet or goes back to the pharaohs, but there are certain people, like secrets of fictional stuff that they try to put together but they can't figure out. And certain churches have materials and we issue this, and then you're reading it and it costs this much money. But actually everybody has their almost in their mind, but that's what I doubt in a way that not everyone, because I think US president had this system. I won't say it's a triangle that's in the US dollar that we see everything. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think that there was, going back to the pharaoh, certain times that I had recollections. So in this book I went back to like 5,000 years. And
so how do you get these recollections? Like I would like that to happen to me, because it seems like you have a lot of secret knowledge.
Some people had, some not. Some people never gonna have. So those people are gonna be always, not always materialistic, but a majority, they will be materialistic. Because they're gonna be excited about a car, a Maserati, yes, or a Bentley, or a Rolex watch, present physical object. But there are people, I figure that you don't have to be a Church of Scientology or a Buddhism or a certain kind of a religion. Once they stated there's 172 small religions in Europe. Mm-hmm. And they all stood up for each other. And there were rumors that Bible that the Catholic Church uses, the old version had 1/3 like on reincarnation that we don't use anymore, or they put it out because it's caused confusion in people. And how can you handle the past with the present? How can you meet people who were in your family in your last lifetime and not, or like for instance, in the afterlife, they promised me that, okay, you're gonna be Hilton and you're gonna be rich, but at 75, they sold the Hilton hotel chain also to a management company, and they say the joke was on this, the 101 Dalmatian, which is actually 101 dogs, foreign, that many Hilton kids would be, and they're not gonna get anything because they were left out. Now, so it's like you cannot really claim, you cannot go into your church and say, okay, I had this much money in my bank account, yes, which in certain churches they said you can, but you can't. Mm-hmm. So it's always a relative term. I think it's for your own experience. That's churches doesn't like you to talk about, but you don't have to go to a church to have reincarnation or to have recollection or nirvana, or have it standardized. Some people have when they are in their late 20s, and that's kind of I won't say it's a general term, but statistically, people who are mature enough and they live an ethical life and are moral life, and they read a lot of books, usually they have recollections and they suppress it. And sometimes they identify themselves with famous people, and
yeah, it seems like reincarnation, it's always somebody famous.
And no, it's not. It's not. But in some certain cases, yes. But for instance, the Church of Scientology had a lot of bulletins that you're not allowed to stay that. Who were you? You're not allowed to whatever. So it goes into your secret file. But in the same time, so if you're a governmental person, that you would be a suppressive person.
Yeah.
They have a category like a 12.
SP
whatever.
is what it's called, right?
SP, yeah, suppressive person. So, which is like, it's again, their operation, if you take a look at it, a lot of people love them for whatever reason. You can't think of a church from 1950 who was a founder is Lafayette of the United States Navy. Well, he was a Navy officer under the Kennedys, I think. He probably got some money for his researches from the government. So I think the Kennedys, my recollection, we were involved with this. And in the Church of Scientology history book, they're blaming JFK that he had a raid on a church in '63 in Washington, D.C. But I think he had been trying to have them, like probably Barack Obama went into certain churches because they had a fight. Like the Church of Scientology had major mob attacks or problems, or interior problems in Chicago. And there were killings and all kind of things, Italian mob. So Ronald Reagan became a president. Why? They say he was the greatest. I don't know. I haven't lived that. I was born in '70, but I think it's totally the opposite, that the United States had to go over from '63 till today. I think all the presidents were off, like out of place. Like it's totally wrong, the whole thing, because it was always on the others. Like Tom Waters, my buddy, he was a great guy. He was always in the same page with me and everything, in literature and friendship.
Be quiet again. Okay.
But
separate. So
yes,
I'm curious about
politics. Tom, he was always on the wrong side. So it's like the country is so huge, America, that 50%, you know. Anyway, let's go back to your thing.
Do you ever go to any of the attractions that Scientology has around Hollywood? The Psychiatry Museum?
I don't go in there.
Have you ever been?
I've been in Scientology for over 10 years. Yeah. So I was a CCHR supporter. Dr. Taylor, this old lady, was CCHR, which is a Citizen Commission on Human Rights for anti-psych thing. Yeah. I was in an anti-psych protest in Germany twice, and I was carrying actually a US flag myself. So probably they circled me on a picture that, you know, this guy has to be killed or something, which there was a Texan lady and they had a Texan and the US flag. So I was carrying a US flag. And when we went to England, to Hamburg, passport control, they were really afraid of mine and the American girl passport control because we were not British or German. So there's the two passports that they had to check, which is very interesting. But yeah, it's again, they have a theory that when they cut your prefrontal lobotomy, then the spirit, as you as a being, you're not able to connect with your body. So basically what it says that you're not able to operate your body outside of your human body. So you as a spirit, you can leave. It's called exteriorization. You can leave your body, but there's another exteriorization when you expand your space. Like you can expand your space as a being, like it can embrace a planet or many planets. Another one is when you can leave exterior your body and you can observe things. But some people exteriorize and they cannot perceive anything, so they don't know what they do. Like people die, like Tom Waters, my buddy died, and he was always hitting. He tried to find a body, and I talked about it. This is the next book that that I took him to Australia because he wanted to be a young blonde kid, and I had that ability. But a lot of people are really high on this church, and they don't. So there's certain abilities that you gain or you were born with, and certain abilities not. So they can miscommunicate or mislead the United States from the 1963 against the Kennedys. They can mislead the Church of Scientology Republic itself on things, because everything is based on financial, yes, in this, or like who wants to gain. But basically the anti-psych, that psychiatry drugs, I don't know, they're like they have a very strict policy to differentiate themselves from others, like the hippie or beatnik movements. And if you take LSD, it means that you're a suppressive person, or you're connected to a suppressive person.
So you basically can't do anything.
It's a policy.
Yeah.
So, and then you cannot get auditing with their electronic meter. Now, or after, I don't know how many times, but basically it relates again that if you get the prefrontal lobotomy, the emitter doesn't measure anymore your charge. The emitter measures your own electronic charge in your body and how much relates to your mental
but if you
charge.
take LSD,
but
it won't read it.
if you no, it's just a negative side. It's just way too negative. So Ronald Reagan had that. Nancy Reagan had a relation to certain members of the church. Warner Brothers ex-owner kid, and basically, I think they were friends with Cass Warner, who we met once. And it's again, I was not really seeing that Nancy Reagan would help me with my immigration, or he would not know about me. I was also not seeing the last 20 years since Bill Clinton also knew about me. Or I think Monica Lewinsky was once in Hungary and said she's going to help me with marriage when I was 17, but she was already 18, and 17 sex is legal in Hungary, but he is not. And then I had a fiance who was identical almost with her, with the same name in Hungarian. So it's like very strange too.
Yeah,
and then they showed this many papers that why she was with President Clinton, but she had nothing to do with the whole thing. So why they have to justify always with this many papers something that's a total different case. You know? Same thing with Nancy Reagan or in Trump. I like Trump, Donald Trump. I think he's great. It's just, again, I had a person who I knew who was at top of Delta and Coca-Cola, who spent 30 years in from Georgia Tech, a top economic professor, alumni in Vienna, as a warehouse management boss for Coca-Cola. And he said he was stamped over with heart use once in Las Vegas, and he had to move to Georgia Tech and back to Calabasas, like 40 years. Yeah, I've heard something about one of the Trumps, I don't know, when I was in Vegas 2012 or 11. So one girl, fiance, clicked who could have helped me and married me, but I think it was, he said it was him behind. It was not probably intentional, but he's not intentionally doing things because he's a president. He cannot have everything in his mind, but he's always, doing it wrongly. Even though he loves me to death, I think, he's a nice guy, but I have a special bad case because I think I'm a magnetic personality. So in my whole life, girls always were way too attractive to me. So
they were too attractive to you?
I couldn't in Church of Scientology, I couldn't get married because I was flirting with all the top girls day and night, but none of them wanted to marry me, So.
Is there a lot of free love going on in the church?
No, not at all. It's like very strict.
Okay.
So the thing is that it just nobody actually wanted to marry me or help me, So it's like, so I quit because of that one. That's one reason.
Yeah.
And then Tom Cruise came in like, I don't know, every 4 years, and there was a girl who I liked, and I think I didn't think so that she's gonna take off with him, but she was an ultimate power girl, and was under Katie Holmes. And so again, I'm not nice, I know, but we couldn't see each other, and she had so many things, but she was like 21 or something, and so I was happy that he has Katie, and he's coming in a church, and he just, he was always snitching off the girls in the last second. And Leah Remini, she's again, whatever she says or they say about her, what I've seen with a lot of Scientology girls, they usually married some moron American guy. They could have married a really nice American guy, and they had 3 kids, and then they coming in that they didn't help you, they're gonna help you. Then they get ran for Cruise or ran for somebody else. So they were never on the right side. They didn't, for their own life, they were never followed. Juliette Lewis was the nicest, and
so
she married a skater guy. So I'm not seeing them marry the right person ever. And Leah was like Tom's, my friend's childhood, how do you call he was teaching Leah in New York, and Tom was mad because Leah left, and he was she was 9 years old. Well, for Tom, he taught Milton Castella's first, who became famous teacher, but Tom took it on a way that if you left him, that you betrayed him, because he was teaching you for 4 or 5 years, and then Leah left when she's getting money, and he was never paid off. And that's what usually they always left him within the church, yes? So what's happening is what I saw with Leah, that I don't know her too much. I was an ethics specialist, I cognitive tech, I finished that. And I observed Tom Cruise as far as, not every day, but as his partial daily life, or what he does. So it says this technology is for 2 years. You observe and you don't do anything against the person, you don't report the person. So when you observe somebody, you see somebody for 12 years, it's more than enough to know whether the periodic deeds or they can get away, and that's why a lot of people left the church, of course. Now, in Leah, I think she's just always in the wrong timer. So she's always came to the wrong guy in the wrong time. So she never did anything right. So I'm sure that Cruz got mad at her. So I'm understanding his side also. And there's way too many suppressive people in the church, within the church, and that's why they make you do these classes, so you can protect your art world. And I love them because I got tired of them, and they're always number one in everything. Then there's the Barack Obama government. It's giving out too many executive orders to cast African Americans, and a lot of people didn't want to see that many black shows, and there's a too fast reality change. I thought he was from Kenya, also like somebody else, but just a spiritual perception. And the book I also wrote about this, that because I studied in Magdeburg University, and it came out that when they brought him on power, the Kenyan, the Vietnamese, and the Bulgarian prime minister, educational minister, a bunch of other countries who were in power, they studied in Magdeburg the same program. So they said we have a Nazi German government, but I think they always had that joke, like in Trump also, they do that joke. And we definitely had a lot of things they implemented that was like German technology or whatever America had to have 20 years ago, but it's again, they're teaching me backwards, that I knew something 20 years ago and I have to listen to it. It's like, so why I'm here? Well, I love the palm trees. I love Starbucks coffee, I'm trying to make changes. Everybody's talking. Everybody's an actor or a writer or reporter, they're activist. So, okay, I'm not gonna do it. Yes, I'm not gonna do it. Or they say you're crazy because you have your reincarnations, or Church of Scientology says that everybody's remembering first to a famous person, so you should not accept that. But what if that was the person? Then they punish you for 10 years because there's a bunch of people who were nobody. So they don't have to, they are free to progress up on this bridge of total freedom, for instance. But so Leah, I think she was always off the rhythm with Cruz and with the other guys, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then I was in Hollywood, and I was introduced to almost everyone, but it's like they always looked at your bank account, and it's the plastic smile thing. So it's like after 2 minutes it was over, and you have to fix up your teeth, and you go to Beverly's dentist, and you're getting $10,000 or $20,000, work on your teeth, then you're getting it again later, and whatever, and you're never getting it all. So it was a regular process with everyone. But I think people just wanted to live in peace. I just wanted to have a good life. And I think it was Tom Singh, who was one of my mentors from New York. They brought the supply and demand. So I think that's the CCHR. Dr. Taylor was CCHR fan, the anti-drug. That what those drugs actually do to you, or that a medical society would be that bad, or the medical society would be deleted because because if there are no drugs, then you're healthy. The church had a policy also that if you have a medical problem, the medical liaison officer, so then you have to be off lines. You cannot take a call, you cannot be on class until you are not handled your medical thing, which is a medical procedure you have to do. So it has nothing to do with your mind or spirit. So it's three different things.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are other organizations like the Way to Happiness, which would actually have this moral code system, which again, I don't know how I wrote it. He didn't. He collected it from Dr. Taylor told me, where it came out from the youth, some of the American youth scouts organization, and morals translated like from the Bible.
Yeah.
So if you have those, the Way to Happiness booklet, and you practice that, don't do something to others that you won't like.
Yeah, just basic stuff.
Basic stuff. Then probably, or fix up your teeth.
Yeah.
Clean up, hygiene. Then clean clothing, eat right, etc. Then probably you're gonna have also a better life. Yes?
Yeah.
So these are basics. Now, and there are other organizations.
Other ways to get to the same prize.
That the Church of Scientology had, that non-profit having you, or study technology, that in Africa and certain countries might be successful, but that's, I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
talking too much about it.
Yeah, but we're almost out of time, so I wanted to give you the last word, Tom.
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind reading a short passage out of one of your books here. It could be poetry. What do you think? Maybe my telepathic letters, would that?
That's a good book, actually. That's
Do you want to
poetry.
read something from this? Yeah, you want to read a poem?
That's a poetry. Yeah, you like that book, actually. We read
Yeah,
last time,
I
I think,
remember,
something. Actually, you came, guys, to Long Beach to my book signing.
That's right, we did.
And then we were, I almost covered up an interview, my next book, Fictitious.
Yeah.
I apologize from the Church of Scientology. I call them Church of Ciceros in my book. I have a presidential speech in this book, which I was talking as a president.
Yeah.
That we lost 3 presidents, which was me, Robert, and Martin Luther King. And
Abraham Martin and John.
yeah, and actually I used that political speech in the public speaking class in college, and they accepted it, so they really liked it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people look at me, New Details, or every collection, as I would be a president in incubation also. So it's funny. Or they call me, church called me in, when there were elections, they used to call me in the office, me and another girl, and usually they ask me who was the president. And they assigned this, that I am the headed god. I was the god in this area. So it's like they all god or goddesses, because they have extremely huge spiritual power. And one planet is not as big as these galaxies or our solar system. So they say somebody that I decide on the US president. And usually what I say, that's the US president, but why? I'm not gonna get into details.
Yeah.
I don't know it myself sometimes, or if I know it, I'm not gonna tell. I don't know what kind of poem you like.
Well, I think we're going to have to leave it there. I think your words are poetry. We're out of time.
All right.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I think it's better if people buy these books.
Exactly. Hear the poetry yourself. Till next time, this is Adam Papagan reminding you that there's a place you can go, and it's your mind. Good night.
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
That's good. Very nice.
Do you want to take them?
Yeah. Why not? It's great.